You ever watch a political scandal unfold and think, this can't possibly get any dumber, and then Donald Trump grabs the mic? Yeah, that's pretty much what happened when Jimmy Kimmel exposed one of the most bizarre, uncomfortable, and downright disturbing moments in modern presidential history. It all started when Trump made that comment, the one about his own press secretary, Caroline Leavitt, aboard Air Force One. Now, normal presidents, the kind who read briefings and don't treat government like a dating show, usually talk about their staff's performance, communication, maybe policy skills. But Trump, nope, he went full Trump mode. He talked about her face and her lips. He said, and I wish this were a joke, that her lips move like a machine gun. Machine gun lips. Let that image haunt your next dinner. Even the reporters on Air Force One froze. You could practically hear the oxygen leave the cabin. Because this wasn't some awkward dad joke, this was the President of the United States openly musing about a 27-year-old staffer like he was narrating a scene from The Bachelor, Oval Office edition. Jimmy Kimmel, of course, got wind of it, and you can imagine his reaction. The man who's roasted everyone from Matt Damon to Mike Pence saw this clip and thought, this is it. This is my Super Bowl. On his show, Kimmel played the clip, raised an eyebrow, and asked the question everyone was thinking. Does the White House have an HR department? Because when your boss, who also happens to run the free world, is comparing his employees' lips to a rapid-fire weapon, you've gone from workplace weird to full-blown FBI evidence folder. And here's the thing, that wasn't even the worst part. This entire saga spiraled into something darker, a story involving creepy age gaps, fake press briefings, and a late-night comedian who refused to look away. So how did a single offhand comment about a woman's lips turn into one of the most humiliating takedowns of Trump's post-presidency career? Grab your popcorn and maybe a barf bag, because this is where it gets wild. While the press was still reeling from the Air Force One machine gun lips moment, Trump was in full denial mode. His team scrambled to spin it, to pretend it was just a joke or taken out of context. Except, there was video, clear, unedited video. You could see Trump grinning like a teenager at prom. You could hear reporters nervously chuckling, that weird, uncomfortable laughter people do when they don't know whether to laugh or call security. And Jimmy Kimmel, he didn't just show the clip, he dissected it, frame by frame. He paused it like a football analyst reviewing a bad play. This is your president, folks, he said, talking about lips like he's auditioning for 50 Shades of Spray Tan. The audience erupted, not because it was funny, but because it was so perfectly Trump. The man who turned politics into performance art, who measured loyalty by flattery and airtime, had once again exposed his true self, live, unscripted, and utterly clueless. But what made this takedown truly legendary wasn't just the roast, it was what came next. Kimmel didn't stop at one joke. He dug deeper. He brought receipts, old clips, press briefings, weird interviews. And what he uncovered about Caroline Leavitt made even Fox News squirm. Because it turns out, Leavitt wasn't just Trump's young press secretary. She was the youngest in U.S. history, 27 years old, married to a man 32 years older. Let that sink in. That's not just an age gap, that's a generation gap. That's the difference between dial-up internet and TikTok. And when Kimmel connected the dots, a young woman in power, married to a much older developer, hired by a man known for his own pattern, he didn't even need to say it out loud. The crowd got it. She's 27, married to a rich man twice her age, and has zero hesitation defending Trump on national TV. Congratulations, you're hired. Even Fox News, the network that once treated Trump like royalty, couldn't fully defend it. They cracked jokes. One commentator warned, Caroline Leavitt, stay away from Bill Belichick. When Fox is clowning your team, you know you've crossed into no defense territory. But then, things took a darker turn. because Kimmel wasn't done roasting. He was about to expose something far more disturbing. He started connecting timelines, clips, statements, moments where Leavitt, with that same polished smile and unwavering tone, lied straight into the camera for Trump. And when Kimmel called it out, it wasn't just comedy anymore. It was truth wrapped in laughter, the kind of truth that makes powerful people furious. If you thought Jimmy Kimmel would stop at one roast, you don't know Jimmy Kimmel. This man smells hypocrisy the way a bloodhound smells bacon. When he saw that Air Force One clip, he didn't just laugh. He sharpened his comedic knives, dimmed the studio lights, and said, "All right, folks, tonight we're doing surgery." He started his monologue by replaying Trump's machine gun lips moment again and again and again. Every time it aired, the crowd groaned louder. "Let's watch that one more time," Kimmel joked. "I just want to make sure the Secret Service is protecting us from this." And then he dropped the hammer. This is the same guy who told America he hires the best people. Apparently, the qualifications are loyalty, lip movement, and a willingness to pretend reality doesn't exist. The audience roared. Kimmel smirked and leaned into the punchline. At this rate, the next press secretary's going to be an AI chatbot that compliments him every 5 minutes. Oh wait, we already have that. It's called Truth Social. The crowd lost it. But behind the laughter, there was a sting, because Kimmel was exposing the pattern everyone else had normalized. Trump wasn't running a government. He was casting a reality show where flattery was currency and facts were optional. Then came Caroline Leavitt's greatest performance, the one that accidentally became her own public undoing. During a White House press briefing, she proudly declared that the U.S. military had been deployed to California to turn the water back on during the wildfire crisis. Yes, she said that. The military turned the water on. Kimmel practically fell off his chair. He replayed the clip and deadpanned. Did the Navy also fix the Wi-Fi while they were at it? Maybe the Marines unclogged some drains? The studio audience couldn't breathe from laughing. But the bigger punchline, it wasn't even an exaggeration. Leavitt really said it. And that's when Kimmel went full detective. He explained how this administration had turned misinformation into muscle memory. Every time they speak, he said, it's like watching improv night at the Flat Earth Society. There's confidence, there's energy, and absolutely no truth. He didn't need to raise his voice. The facts did the heavy lifting. Trump's press team was out there inventing military operations, defending imaginary water switches, and blaming the Biden deep state for weather. Even seasoned reporters looked like they were trying not to scream. And yet, every time Leavitt fumbled, Trump doubled down on praise. "She's a star," he'd say. "It's the face, it's the brain, it's those lips, like a machine gun." Cue Kimmel's next punchline. "She's a star, yeah, a shooting star, headed straight for an ethics investigation." But satire wasn't the only weapon that night. Truth was. Kimmel rolled out the receipts. Leavitt's marriage to a developer 30 decades older. Trump's past comments about women's looks. The eerie mirror between her life and his own. It was a full-blown exposé disguised as comedy. He connected it all. The power dynamics, the obsession with image, the way Trump surrounded himself with people who echoed his own appetites. "This is like hiring your reflection," Kimmel said. "Except the reflection's younger, married to real estate money and willing to lie for free." The crowd erupted. But this wasn't just funny, it was damning. For the first time, late-night TV wasn't just mocking Trump's behavior. It was mapping it, showing how every strange, creepy, inappropriate habit was part of a larger system of control. And Trump, he couldn't handle it. Within 24 hours, his team was spinning out damage control statements faster than a DJ at Mar-a-Lago. President Trump was joking, they said. It's liberal media manipulation, they said. Kimmel fired back the next night. Manipulation? Buddy, I didn't edit the tape. You did that yourself when you decided to speak. By then, the clip had gone viral, millions of views across YouTube, Twitter, and late-night highlight reels. Every outlet played it. Every comedian referenced it. Even the usually cautious morning shows couldn't resist a smirk when reading the transcript. The fallout was nuclear. Trump loyalists accused Kimmel of disrespecting the presidency. Kimmel shrugged and replied, "You have to respect the office to disrespect it. Right now, it's basically a spray-tan TikTok account with nuclear codes." It was the perfect blend of truth and comedy, a tone America hadn't heard enough of. And the best part? He wasn't done yet. Because just as the internet caught fire, Kimmel uncovered the next layer, one that made even die-hard Trump fans pause. It involved fake videos, doctored guest lists, and a White House press secretary who apparently lived in a fantasy world. So here's where things went from awkward presidential gaffe to full-blown political fanfiction. The Trump team, cornered, humiliated, and furious about Kimmel's takedown, did what they do best. They made stuff up. Within days, clips started popping up all over social media, videos with titles like, "Caroline Leavitt destroys Jimmy Kimmel live on air," "Trump's press secretary humiliates Hollywood host," "Kimmel begs for mercy after fiery exchange." The only problem? None of it ever happened. Caroline Leavitt had never even been on Jimmy Kimmel's show. There was no interview, no fiery exchange, no humiliation, unless you count what she did to basic logic in those press briefings. But the videos looked real. AI-generated thumbnails, fake subtitles, slick editing, and thousands of angry comments from Trump supporters claiming Kimmel finally got what he deserved. Kimmel caught wind of it, and in typical fashion, he didn't rage, he didn't complain, he laughed. Because this wasn't just fake news, it was fictional revenge. "They're making up fan videos now," Kimmel said. "You can't write this stuff. It's like they're producing Marvel's next big flop, Caroline, Multiverse of Lies." The audience howled. But Kimmel didn't stop there. He broke it down piece by piece, showing screenshots of the fake titles, tracing the accounts that posted them, exposing how desperate the echo chamber had become. "This is where we're at, folks," he said. "They can't beat the jokes, so they invent alternate realities. Next week, they'll probably CGI me apologizing to Trump from space." The laugh track turned into applause, because deep down, everyone knew he was right. This wasn't about comedy anymore. This was about control. Every fake clip was part of a pattern, an effort to rewrite reality every time Trump looked bad. If the truth hurt, they'd just invent a new one. And if facts got in the way, they'd drown them out with memes, bots, and slogans. But there was a reason this particular scandal cut deeper. Kimmel didn't just catch Trump in a lie, he caught him in a moment of truth. The Air Force One comment wasn't edited or twisted. It was Trump, unfiltered, exposing exactly who he was when the cameras weren't supposed to be rolling. And that's what terrified them. Because if late-night audiences could see that, if average Americans could laugh and think at the same time, the spell would start to break. So Trump did what Trump always does when cornered. He went nuclear on Twitter. Sorry, Truth Social. He ranted that Kimmel was part of a Hollywood conspiracy. He called ABC the enemy of the people. He accused Kimmel of spreading lies to hurt a great American woman. You could practically hear his phone overheating as he typed in all caps. But the damage was done. The machine gun lips clip had been replayed millions of times, and now the cover-up was somehow even more embarrassing than the original quote. Kimmel, never one to miss a beat, went on air the next night with a grin and said, "Wow, I've been called a lot of things in my career, but deep state puppet master is new. If I'm running the government, somebody better tell my accountant." He followed it with a simple truth. If you have to invent fake videos to make your side look good, maybe your side's not that good. That line hit hard. It wasn't just comedy anymore. It was cultural commentary in a joke's clothing. Then the story took an even darker turn, because amid all the noise about fake clips, Kimmel found something real, something buried in the same press briefings that everyone had missed. A slip-up, a name, a detail that shouldn't have been said. Caroline Leavitt, in one of her desperate attempts to defend Trump, had accidentally confirmed a classified meeting between one of Trump's allies and undercover FBI agents. It was one of those blink-and-you-miss-it moments, but Kimmel didn't miss it. He played the clip, pausing on her nervous smile as she tried to recover. And then he said the quiet part out loud. "This is what happens when you hire loyalty instead of competence. They start leaking classified info before the coffee break." The crowd gasped, partly from laughter, partly from disbelief. Because it wasn't just funny, it was reckless. Leavitt had just admitted on camera to something no White House spokesperson should ever admit. And that's when the media pile-on began. Headlines exploded. Analysts dissected every second of that briefing. And suddenly, the machine gun lips joke had turned into a potential national security issue. Trump's response? He doubled down again. "She's doing a fantastic job," he said at a rally. "She's young, she's smart, and she's loyal. The best press secretary we've ever had." Kimmel couldn't resist. "Of course she's loyal, Mr. President. You've got her career, her marriage, and half her sentences on tape." The studio audience erupted. It was savage, precise, and undeniably true. Meanwhile, online chaos continued. Supporters kept sharing fake Leavitt victory clips. Conspiracy influencers claimed Kimmel had been silenced. One even posted a photoshopped thumbnail of Trump in a boxing ring knocking out Kimmel, with the caption, "Late night loser destroyed." Kimmel showed it on air and deadpanned, "Finally, a version of Trump where he actually works out." The laughter drowned out the absurdity. But the message was clear. Trump's base wasn't just rewriting history anymore. They were producing fantasy television out of it. By the end of that week, Kimmel had done what no one else in the media seemed able to. He turned Trump's entire defense mechanism into the punchline itself. He exposed the desperate illusion, the cult of image, the fake victories, and the fragile ego that fueled it all. And even though the story kept mutating online, Kimmel had already won. Not with rage, not with propaganda, but with something far more dangerous to authoritarians: laughter rooted in truth. But as the laughs grew louder, Trump's temper did too. And that's what brings us to the next chapter, the retaliation. Because when Trump gets humiliated, he doesn't back down. He plots. If there's one thing Donald Trump hates more than losing, it's losing publicly. And Jimmy Kimmel didn't just beat him, he turned him into a global punchline. So, naturally, Trump did what he always does when someone exposes him. He erupted. It started, as usual, on Truth Social, Trump's personal digital volcano. He fired off post after post, like a man trying to win an argument with his own reflection. Fake news: Jimmy Kimmel is a loser. Low ratings. Unfunny guy with no talent. And then, because this is Trump we're talking about, he ended one of the posts with, "Caroline Leavitt is a great patriot, the best lips in Washington." Even Kimmel had to pause his monologue for that one. "The best lips in Washington?" he repeated. "Sir, that's not an endorsement, that's a workplace violation." The crowd roared. And once again, Trump had handed Kimmel a fresh batch of comedy gold. But behind the jokes, there was something deeper happening. Trump wasn't just angry, he was obsessed. Every night, his aides said, he'd stay up watching clips of Kimmel's monologues, fuming that late-night TV was controlled by the deep state. According to one insider, he even floated the idea of canceling Kimmel, literally. Now, you might laugh at that, but this wasn't an empty threat. Trump reportedly called contacts at ABC, furious, demanding to know why the network let that idiot air lies. Of course, those calls went nowhere. ABC wasn't about to pull its highest-rated monologue because a former president had a tantrum. But here's the twist. The backlash didn't stop there. Right-wing pundits jumped in, spinning wild theories that Kimmel was part of a Hollywood plot to protect the Epstein network. Yes, really. They tried to turn a joke about lips into a conspiracy about billionaires, islands, and cover-ups. And Trump's allies ran with it. They started calling Kimmel a pedophile sympathizer, because when you don't have facts, you throw buzzwords at the wall and hope one sticks. Kimmel responded the only way he knew how, with precision sarcasm. "Wow," he said, "so I exposed Trump's creepy behavior, and now I'm the problem. Next thing you know, I'll be accused of masterminding the moon landing." He let the laughter settle, then twisted the knife. You know what's funny? Every time they mention Epstein, they forget one thing. Trump's name was in that book, not mine. Down. That line echoed across social media like a grenade. Meanwhile, Caroline Leavitt was drowning in her own PR nightmare. Her press briefings had become a circus, reporters openly questioning her credibility, social media mocking every word she said. Her marriage became tabloid fodder. Every photo of her and her much older husband turned into a meme. And when she tried to clap back by calling Kimmel a washed-up Hollywood hack, the internet responded with split-screen photos. One side showing Kimmel hosting the Oscars, the other showing her trying to explain why the military turned on the water. It wasn't a fair fight because one side had jokes and the other had delusion. But Trump, ever loyal to chaos, doubled down. He went to a rally in Ohio, red hot blazing, and shouted to the crowd, "Jimmy Kimmel's a disgrace. He's part of the fake news media. They are jealous of your favorite presidents." He puffed out his chest like a man trying to flex his way out of embarrassment. And right on cue, the crowd booed Kimmel's name. It was classic Trump: redirect, project, and turn shame into applause. But even in that crowd, you could see the confusion. People weren't sure why they were booing a talk show host. That's the thing about Kimmel's comedy. It cuts through the noise. People may not like hearing the truth, but when it's wrapped in laughter, it sticks. And the truth was this. Trump had surrounded himself with yes men and women so eager to please him, they didn't even realize when they were humiliating themselves. Caroline Leavitt was just the latest in a long line of loyalists who mistook loyalty for intelligence. As Kimmel put it that week, Trump doesn't hire people to tell him the truth. He hires people to tell him he's right and occasionally compliment his tan. But then came Trump's pettiest move yet. After being roasted night after night, he decided to sue the New York Times, yes, the actual paper, for $15 billion. $15 billion. When Kimmel heard that, he nearly fell off his chair. $15 billion? That's adorable, he said. This man thinks lawsuits work like Monopoly. He's out here charging rent for Boardwalk. And then, with that trademark grin, Kimmel added, "If you ever needed proof that Trump lives in his own fantasy world, there it is. He thinks the New York Times is sitting on Scrooge McDuck money." The studio exploded in laughter. But Kimmel wasn't done. He went further, tying the lawsuit to Trump's obsession with silencing critics. He reminded his audience that this wasn't the first time Trump had tried to muzzle free speech. From threatening networks to blacklisting journalists, it was all part of the same pattern. Control the narrative, kill the joke. Except this time, the joke had already gone viral. The internet had turned Trump's tantrum into a meme storm. Clips of Kimmel saying "machine gun lips" remixed into songs. Fan edits of Trump's speeches cut with laugh tracks. Even TikTok creators joined in, lip-syncing Kimmel's punchlines to millions of views. And that's when the real damage hit, not on TV, but online. Trump had lost control of the internet. Every attempt to silence Kimmel just made the jokes louder. Every rant fueled another viral meme. And worst of all for Trump, Kimmel wasn't backing down. He ended that week's show with one final shot. Here's the thing about comedy, folks. You can't fact-check a laugh. If it's true, people feel it. If it's fake, they don't. And right now, America's laughing because we've seen the truth. It wasn't just a punchline. It was a thesis, a closing argument in the court of public opinion. But Trump wasn't done either. By now, the whole saga had become bigger than late-night TV. This wasn't just a celebrity feud. It was a cultural showdown. Comedy versus corruption, truth versus theater. And the whole world was watching. Trump, of course, kept spiraling. After the Kimmel takedown went viral, he doubled his public appearances, desperate to control the narrative. He started throwing insults at anyone who so much as smirked about the scandal. "Crooked media," he yelled at rallies. "Hollywood is after me. They're jealous." But you could tell it wasn't confidence anymore. It was panic wearing hairspray. Every press briefing from Caroline Leavitt made things worse. She stood there, polished and perfect, trying to pretend her boss hadn't turned her into a late-night punchline. Her answers got shorter, her tone got snappier. Reporters could smell the desperation. Even her usual defenders at conservative outlets began to back away. The headlines changed from "Caroline Leavitt shines at the podium" to "Caroline Leavitt struggles to regain credibility." And then Kimmel dropped one final segment, the knockout blow. It opened with soft piano music. The screen showed a montage: Trump's creepy Air Force One comments, Leavitt's wild claims, Fox News anchors awkwardly trying to spin it all. Then Kimmel appeared at his desk, holding a stack of cue cards. He looked straight into the camera and said, "You know, I've been doing this job for a long time, and every so often a story comes along that's so weird, so perfect, you almost don't have to write jokes for it." He paused, letting the silence stretch. "This is one of those stories." Then he tossed the cards aside and went unscripted, just Kimmel, the camera, and brutal honesty wrapped in comedy. He recapped the entire scandal, how Trump turned a compliment into a confession, how Leavitt defended lies until they ate her alive, how supporters faked videos just to protect an illusion. And then he said it. This isn't about one creepy comment. It's about what happens when you let power replace decency, when loyalty becomes more important than truth. The crowd went quiet. You could hear the weight behind the words. Then, like a true performer, he twisted it back into a laugh. And, of course, it's also about a 78-year-old man who thinks every microphone is a dating app. The room exploded. That was vintage Kimmel. Sharp, fearless, and perfectly timed. Meanwhile, Trump's team scrambled for damage control. They blamed editing, they blamed Kimmel's producers, they even hinted that foreign media operatives were helping write jokes. Yeah, apparently the CIA's new top priority was comedy writing. Even Fox News couldn't keep a straight face anymore. One host sighed on air and said, "Look, we love President Trump, but maybe, just maybe, he should stop talking about people's lips." It was the closest thing to accountability anyone had heard from them in years. By now, Trump's public image had taken a hit that even his most loyal followers couldn't ignore. Kimmel hadn't just mocked him, he had dismantled him. Piece by piece, lie by lie. The laughter had turned into something heavier, something resembling awareness. But Kimmel wasn't out for blood. He was out for truth. That's the secret to why this story stuck. People can argue politics all day long, but when someone says something undeniably wrong and a comedian points it out with perfect clarity, that truth lingers. He said it best in his closer. "Every night, they tell us not to believe what we see. They tell us our eyes are lying, our ears are lying, our brains are lying. But comedy only works when people recognize reality. So if you're laughing, that means you see it too." It was a mic drop moment. Not shouted, not screamed, delivered with the calm power of someone who knew he'd won the argument. As the credits rolled that night, the internet went nuclear again. Clips of the monologue trended for days. Hashtag Machine Gun Lips became a meme and a movement, the kind that no PR spin could erase. Even comedians from rival shows joined in. One joked, "Kimmel just did more journalism in 10 minutes than Fox did all year." And they weren't wrong. In a world drowning in fake outrage and rewritten history, Kimmel's takedown cut through the noise with something real: clarity, humor, and zero fear. Trump's camp, meanwhile, went quiet. No more fiery press releases, no more fake videos. Caroline Leavitt disappeared from briefings for a while, on vacation. Translation: in damage control boot camp. By the time she returned, the damage was irreversible. Her credibility was toast, her sound bites were memes, and every time she stepped up to the podium, you could hear someone whisper machine gun lips under their breath. Trump tried to move on, tried to start new fights, find new enemies, but the clip haunted him. Because this time, the ridicule wasn't from political rivals or pundits, it was from everyone. And that's the real story here. Comedy didn't just mock power, it exposed it. Kimmel's takedown proved that truth still has teeth, and laughter can still hold leaders accountable. As Kimmel said in his final line that week, maybe that's why they hate jokes so much, because jokes tell the truth without permission. The audience stood, cheering, clapping, laughing, not just because it was funny, but because it felt like a release. A moment of clarity in a sea of madness. A reminder that no matter how loud the lies get, one well-timed laugh can still shake the walls of power.